Revealed, how a surprising housekeeper spoke Japanese and transformed a billion-dollar crisis. Lily stood there, wiping down the gleaming conference room table beneath the harsh fluorescent lights of the corporate law firm. Each stroke of her cloth was methodical, but inside, her mind was a brewing storm. They didn't see her just a housekeeper, an invisible woman who blended into the background, while her days melted into a blur of cleaning and care. The loss of her husband still gripped her heart, a chain around her soul, tightened by the relentless responsibility of raising 2 children alone in Los Angeles. What she had once dreamed for her family felt as distant as the stars on a cloudy night. But today, the frantic buzz of voices and urgent footsteps ricocheted through the marble hallways, snapping her from her thoughts. Panic surged through the firm as news trickled down of a major client threatening to walk away over a contract breach. Heads turned to each other, eyes widening. What would happen if the corporate giant pulled out? Faces etched with anxiety filled the boardroom, the air thick with desperation. Yet, as she meticulously arranged the chairs, a flicker of hope ignited in her chest. What if this was her moment? What if her command of Japanese and ability sidelined by chores and grief could turn the tide? Gathering her courage felt like trying to lift a mountain. She approached the partners with trembling hands, her heart pounding in defiance of her self-doubt. But they dismissed her with cold glances, oblivious to the talent hidden behind her ordinary uniform. Just the housekeeper. Just the invisible woman. Time ticked mercilessly as the crisis deepened. She knew they were running out of options. Summoning every ounce of determination, she pressed on, offering her assistance once more. "I can speak their language," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. When the partners finally relented, it was begrudgingly, allowing her into that room filled with tailored suits and sharp insights. As she stepped into the boardroom, she gripped her hands tightly, nerves now a living entity consuming her thoughts. Familiar stares pierced her, each one a palpable reminder of her lowly status. What was she doing here? A subtle ache of insecurity stalled her thoughts. Could she really navigate this negotiation? Her voice broke the silence, and suddenly, those fears melted away as fluent Japanese filled the air. She captured their attention, drawing the eyes of both clients and venerable partners alike. But beneath the surface, skepticism churned. Whispers and glances met her words with doubt. Could she actually steer this ship? Anguish clawed at her, a visceral need to prove herself clashing with the familiar ache of being marginalized. With every snide remark, the shadow of their prejudice loomed, threatening to envelope her once again. As the discussion spiraled, she uncovered crucial details rooted in her cultural awareness, a talent that now stood at the brink of her salvation. The stakes rose higher. It wasn't just for this client or this firm, it was about reclaiming her identity. Could she find a place amongst these polished giants? Self-doubt crept back, a nagging antagonist whispering that no one would see her beyond the cleaning supplies she wielded or the countless hours she toiled. Every heartbeat felt like a question unanswered, waiting for validation amidst the roaring storm of corporate disdain. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each passing moment, the tension escalated. She was torn between the instinct to fight for her right to be recognized and the fear that she would remain unseen. Lily stood firm at the imposing table, a fragile flicker of hope nestled deep within the encroaching shadows of self-doubt. Would she ultimately carve out a space for herself, or would she be lost to the currents of indifference once more? The outcome lay just beyond her grasp, leaving her poised on the edge, waiting for an answer that felt out of reach. As the final words of her Japanese presentation hung in the air, silence wrapped around the boardroom. Lily's pulse raced, each heartbeat a clamor drowning out her thoughts. For all her preparatory efforts, questions flooded her mind. Had she conveyed the right nuances? Did they appreciate the depth of her insights? The skeptical gazes bore down on her like weights, shackling her confidence and reinforcing the doubt that had almost consumed her. The lead partner cleared his throat, bringing her momentarily back from the chaotic clamor in her head. "Thank you, Lily," he said, the tone indifferent, though tinged with an edge of acknowledgement. "We'll consider the implications of your observations." A rush of disappointment mingled with fear surged through her. Consider? Was that all? But she veered away from despair, willing her focus into sharper clarity. This was just the beginning. She had offered her capabilities. Stepping back into her world of scrubbing, buoyed by her knowledge, felt like an abomination now. She wanted more. The drive within was swelling, fueled by the urgency of their situation and a need to transform her life beyond invisible boundaries. As the meeting adjourned, her stomach turned when she felt eyes on her. It was the junior attorney, Andrew, who had watched her closely during her presentation. The first contact he made was unexpectedly friendly. "You were impressive in there, Lily. Would you be interested in working on this case? We could really use someone with your skills." The offer hung provocatively in the air. It was like a double-edged sword, a chance to establish herself amidst her professional transition, yet undeniably daunting to venture beyond the invisible lines drawn by her current role. She sensed the uncertainty creeping back. Would she have what it takes if she stepped outside the safety of her invisible duties? Her breath caught. "I don't know if I can, Andrew." Lily," he interrupted, earnestness breaking through apprehension. "Trust me, you've got something they need. Your insights are valuable." She clutched her cleaning rag tightly, as if willing the weight of expectation to dissipate. The reflection of Andrew's added confidence began to chip away at her walls of doubt. "Okay," she decided, words escalating into a promise rather than a confession of faith. "I'll do it." The yes echoed in her mind, vibrating with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Back in her routine, the partition between her new role and existing identity felt suddenly fluid. Engaging in case prep added layers to her skills. She dove into legal documents, translating complex language. Each hour transformed the practice, allowing the woman who had once only mopped floors to grow into a crucial player within the team. Days passed, ushering her deeper into the fray. Yet along with her burgeoning confidence came an irritable undercurrent of anxiety. Was she becoming too ambitious? Embracing this shift meant risking the invisible daily grind she had known, a comforting obstacle she had grown accustomed to managing carefully. In those moments of quiet, she reflected, what if her evolution alienated those she loved? Staring at the shimmering surface of the polished floor beneath her feet, she confronted her fears. The moment came when the client's representatives arrived for negotiation discussions, and she could hear the faint rustles of the suits and the strained pitch of their voices as they entered the boardroom. Her heart was racing again, but this time with a determined rhythm. The stakes were higher now, her presence could prove pivotal. Yet as the meeting unfolded, tension crept back in. What if this time, she faltered? What if the partners rejected her contributions again? The familiar storm brewed within her, robbing her of the surety she had earned. Just as doubt began to take hold, Lily savored the fleeting remnants of empowerment. But then, one glaring remark from a senior partner brought the storm crashing down. "We simply can't trust the insight of someone whose credentials come from a custodial position." The sentences dripped with condescension, igniting a fire at the base of her spine. In that raw moment of humiliation, something broke inside of her, possibly the chains of her past or perhaps the dam holding back her fear. The realization washed over her, she was done being invisible. The boundaries they had set reminded her that the struggle was inevitable, but the fire in her would confront it. As the meeting drained on, Lily's pulse echoed louder. The time had come to face not only her critics but also the voice within that fought to keep her small. Would she finally stand up to defend the possibility of who she could become? In those vital seconds, a decision loomed before her. Would she retreat or challenge the narrative playing out around her? The weight of expectation tightened around her, the answer feeling evanescent while the confrontation was closing in. The stakes had escalated, but so had her resolve. What awaited her next? Would she finally claim her space or crumble under the weight of presumption? Lily stood on the precipice of her transformation, the weight of doubt still heavy on her chest but increasingly overshadowed by a burgeoning resolve. The sharp comment from the senior partner had carved a line in the sand, igniting a fierce determination she had never fully acknowledged. No longer would she cower behind her cleaning duties or the stereotypes they pinned on her. She had earned this opportunity, and it was time to fight for it. As the meeting tapered off, she could feel the room's energy shift. Talk among the partners intensified, some deferring to the senior partner's authoritative remark while others bristled at his tone. Andrew shot her a quick glance, a flash of concern and encouragement mingled in his expression, urging her to speak up. Lily inhaled sharply, gathering her thoughts which flickered like candles in the wind. She had to anchor herself. The survival instinct was fighting to hold her back, while a new instinct whispered of courage. She cleared her throat, a small yet definitive act that drew a collective attention. "I understand the skepticism regarding my background," she began, her voice unwavering. "But I believe it gives me a unique perspective. My insights are not only informed by knowledge of the law but also by cultural nuances that others may overlook." Her pulse raced, each word an affirmation rather than a plea. For a brief moment, silence engulfed the room once more. She watched as several heads nodded tentatively, and the air felt charged with anticipation. Somewhere deep in her gut, a shift took place. This was no longer just about her credentials, it was about the legitimacy of her experiences and her voice. The senior partner's brow furrowed, disbelief and annoyance quickly crossing his features. But she pressed on, drawing strength from the palpable tension in the air. "My experience has shown me that different perspectives can lead to innovative solutions. Today's negotiation won't be just about figures and contracts, it's crucial to understand the underlying cultural contexts that can influence decisions." Andrew leaned slightly forward, an encouraging gesture that went unnoticed by the others. Another partner, a woman who had kept mostly silent through the meeting, chimed in. "Lily's right. We're at a time when understanding the broader implications can protect our interests. We need fresh perspectives." The conversation shifted, and Lily seized the momentum. She interjected where necessary, infusing her seasoned observations into the dialogue about the case. Each contribution made her anxiety dissipate slightly, like snow under the warming sun. Not only could she participate, she was proving her value, opening more than just her mouth, she was opening minds. As discussions progressed, she felt the flickers of camaraderie illuminate the room instead of the shadows of competition. It was intoxicating. She was contributing, weaving her narrative into the fabric of the team's strategy, and suddenly, it felt possible that her presence could reshape the outcome. After the meeting, the partners lingered, and the atmosphere had softened significantly. Conversations flowed effortlessly, and several colleagues stopped to commend her insights. A few even approached with offers of support and collaboration. For the first time, she felt she had allies, validating the shift she had started within herself, but shadows of doubt still lurked, whispering cautionary tales of returning to the place of invisibility, the same place they had tried to confine her. Deep down, she recognized her path wasn't guaranteed safety, it was fraught with risks and uncertainties. She had ventured beyond the protective bubble of her past, and while the new reality felt exhilarating, it was also a labyrinth of challenges yet to come. Now that she had ignited her voice, could she sustain the momentum and continue to carve out her identity in this corporate world? Questions folded into each other, layering her thoughts as evening settled in, leaving her mentally exhausted yet exhilarated. But then, her phone buzzed with an email notification, a message from Andrew that read, "You were phenomenal today. You've changed the game. Let us talk tomorrow about what comes next." A mix of anticipation and anxiety coursed through her. The conversation with Andrew could set the tone for her future, but she also realized that navigating this new landscape meant having to confront the very doubts that could still bury her underneath the layers of her past. What awaited her in that conversation? Would she find a way to build on this small victory, or would her unresolved fears claw her back into silence? The next step loomed, just out of reach, and she couldn't shake the feeling of an impending crossroads. Lily's heart raced as dawn broke, the golden light spilling through her window offering warmth yet amplifying her anticipation. Last night's victory was still fresh, but alongside it stirred an unsettling cocktail of fear and hope. The gravity of her next encounter with Andrew weighed heavily on her mind. The idea of engaging in a candid discussion about her future felt like standing at the edge of a precipice once again. Ready to leap, she slipped into a tailored outfit, the crisp fabric clinging to her like a newfound armor. The mirror reflected a woman who had shed her previous role, but the lingering insecurities clung to her edges. As she left her apartment, the familiar streets felt different, a blend of possibility and unease shifting underfoot. Arriving at the office, she was met by a buzz of activity, a contrast to the solitary duties of her past. Colleagues exchanged ideas in animated voices, flipping through papers that once seemed foreign to her grasp. For the first time, her awareness heightened to a singular truth: she was part of this world now. No longer on the sidelines, she stood among them as an equal, yet the confidence she built wobbled under the pressure of uncertainty. Andrew's message echoed in her mind, amplifying the stakes of their meeting. What if he was merely grateful for her contributions in the meeting? What if he hadn't fully grasped the realities she faced? As she settled at her desk, thoughts swirled like autumn leaves in a gust of wind. The minutes stretched, an eternity cloaked in anticipation, until the door opened, and Andrew stepped in. His expression radiated encouragement, but even that smile prompted a flicker of doubt. "Lily," he began, his voice steady, "you have a real talent for understanding complex dynamics. I think you could do even more if you were given the right opportunity." She felt her pulse quicken, each beat a step closer to the professional summit she craved. "What do you mean?" He leaned against her desk, a posture both relaxed and sincere, and spoke of a new project involving negotiations with an overseas client, a client with deep cultural intricacies that could be easily misread. Her knowledge of those subtleties could provide their firm a significant edge. The opportunity resonated with her, but with it came the flood of doubt: could she truly step into such a vital role? Her previous life revolved around silent observation. Now, Andrew's words awakened latent fears of speaking her truth. The whispers of past insecurities echoed louder, reminding her she was a product of her history, a housekeeper with a grasp on the legal world but still tethered to her unsure origins. "Why me?" she managed, her voice quieter than intended. "Because you understand both sides of the coin," he replied, his eyes locking on hers. "You're equipped with insights that could guide us through potential pitfalls. But if you're in, you need to fully commit to stepping outside your comfort zone." Andrew's challenge ignited a flicker of defiance within her. Here was a chance to validate her worth beyond what she had been raised to believe. Each argument she had made in the meeting was a foundation she could now build upon to explore her capabilities. It was exhilarating yet terrifying. Instinctively, she sensed a choice lingered in the air: would she embrace the wings of this fresh opportunity or cling to the weight of her past? As they discussed the project in finer detail, Lily felt a strange transformation begin. Words flowed with clarity, and her doubts, while still present, lost their power bit by bit. As they wrapped up, a tension solidified between them. "You're going to have to face some tough discussions when we present this proposal. The senior partner will push back, especially after your earlier challenge," Andrew acknowledged, gauging her reaction. Lily nodded slowly, but inside, a quiet resolve began to form. This was the moment she had craved, a definitive clash where her past met her future, an intersection she could either navigate or falter in. Would she step forward with confidence or retread? The safety of obscurity. Leaving the meeting room, her mind whirred with possibilities and uncertainty. Amidst that chaos, one truth crystallized: the road ahead was fraught with peril, but every step was a chance to redefine who she was. As she approached her desk again, her phone buzzed once more. A new email notification flickered on the screen, a reminder of her task list and something more daunting. The senior partner had requested a follow-up meeting. It was time to confront the very doubts that had governed her life thus far. There was no turning back now. The moment of truth arrived just as she had anticipated. How would she respond to the challenges that were sure to arise? Lily took a deep breath as she processed the email from the senior partner. The words blurred momentarily before her. The weight of expectation felt crushing, yet invigorating. What had started as an unexpected opportunity was shaping into an unavoidable crossroad. This was at the moment she had prepared for subconsciously. In every late-night study session, in every debate won in her mind, she glanced around the office, noticing her colleagues diving into their tasks with determination. Each seemed to meld seamlessly with the flicking of pens and the tap of keyboards. Pulses of energy filled the room, a stark contrast to the tempest within her. To most, she had blended into the background, a diligent worker bee. But right now, she needed to be the queen, making decisions that could potentially sway the hive. Gathering her composure, she began to draft her thoughts for the upcoming meeting. It wasn't just about the cultural nuances of negotiation, it was about her story, her evolution from the shadows to a position where being voiceless was no longer an option. With each word she typed, she felt the courage building. It wasn't just about understanding the subtleties of business, it was about representing her truth, acknowledging her past, and demonstrating her unique perspective. The fear still lingered, a specter whispering of every time she had played small, every moment when her voice faltered at the prospect of confrontation. But in stark contrast, the thrill of potential radiated through her thoughts. Andrew had recognized something intrinsically valuable within her, a spark waiting to be ignited. Flipping through her notes, she pulled up insights into Japanese business practices she had gathered over the years. Insights that had once felt like hurdles on her path now stood tall as beacons of distinction. It dawned on her that her past was not a handicap but rather an asset that could bridge gaps and create unprecedented understanding. It was a part of her, indispensable. The clock ticked ominously. The meeting would occur soon, and a torrent of thoughts flooded her mind. As she stood and paced, her inner dialogue surged with possibilities. What if she stepped into that room with authority? What if she let go of the insecurities that had dogged her for so long? What if today could be the day she showed them all what she could do? As she rehearsed her points, she began to envision the room filled with skeptical expressions. Familiar faces, primarily the senior partner, who would look to challenge her qualifications. The confrontation loomed like a thundercloud, but in her mind, she began to formulate strategies to counter their skepticism. She wasn't just another housekeeper with legal knowledge, she was uniquely capable of bridging cultural divides and offering a perspective too often overlooked. Before she knew it, the time had come. Standing outside the conference room, she felt a visceral pull at the pit of her stomach but ignored it. She flicked her gaze to the nameplate on the door. It was time to step inside, not merely to represent her ideas but to assert her right to belong. As she entered, the collective gaze fell upon her. The room brimmed with tension, a burgeoning storm of expectations. She sensed that shift. This was where her fears would either empower her or attempt to envelop her again. "Welcome, Lily," the senior partner began, the slight arch of his brows signaling both challenge and curiosity. "You have an important role today." Taking a deep breath, Lily centered herself. The challenges ahead began to crystallize not as threats, but as opportunities to showcase her evolution. She could almost hear Andrew's words trailing behind her, words of encouragement and belief. It was time. Just as she was about to begin, a figure barged into the room. It was Nathan, a colleague who often questioned her capabilities openly, a man who thrived on proving others wrong. The air thickened with tension, and she could feel the storm brewing anew. "Can we trust her insights?" Nathan interjected without preamble, eyes narrowing on her. The challenge hung palpably in the air, and Lily felt the eyes around her shift, a spotlight illuminating her vulnerabilities. Dread wrestled with a burgeoning defiance in her chest. She stood at the precipice again, her heart a drum echoing in her ears. The moment to rise to the occasion had arrived. How would she respond to Nathan's antagonism? Would she retreat, or would she confront her naysayer now, laying the groundwork for the confident woman she was determined to become? The energy in the room crackled, setting the stage for a pivotal moment, one that could either reinforce her place in this world or thrust her back into the shadows. Lily's mind raced as Nathan's words echoed. Could she let his challenge define her? In the split second that followed, a spark ignited within her, a flicker of resolve that drowned out the insidious doubt. This was not merely a battle of words, it was a fight for her professional identity. Trust. She spoke, her voice unexpectedly steady, drawing the attention of the room. Trust comes from understanding the value of diverse perspectives. My background has afforded me insights that traditional approaches often overlook, especially in cross-cultural negotiations. She saw a flicker of surprise on some faces, but Nathan's skepticism loomed larger. You've never worked on a project of this magnitude before, Lily. How can you assure us that your insights can lead to success? The room held its breath, and she could almost feel the collective heartbeat quicken. They were waiting, testing her ability to navigate the turbulence. Faced with Nathan's challenge, a familiar urge to retreat crept in, but this time, it was met with an equally potent determination to stand her ground. This was her moment not just to prove herself to Nathan but to confront the remnants of her self-doubt. While my experience might not align with what is traditionally expected, she continued, I've been actively studying Japanese business practices for years. The differences in negotiation strategies, understanding how relationships form the basis of business decisions, are often subtle yet crucial. As she articulated her insights, she noticed her colleagues shifting, exchanging glances. Perhaps they were beginning to reconsider their initial reservations. Andrew's earlier belief in her flooded back to her mind, amplifying her confidence. This wasn't just about Nathan, it was also about reclaiming her narrative from a past where she constantly felt inadequate. Are you suggesting that we ignore proven methodologies in favor of guesswork? Nathan pressed, his brows knitted in an attempt to exert dominance again. No, Lily replied, her tone intense yet measured. What I'm suggesting is that we divorce ourselves from rigid frameworks that might limit our success. Cultural considerations, particularly in Japanese markets, require us to adapt and innovate. My unique experiences allow me to bridge that gap. For a heartbeat, she witnessed uncertainty dance across Nathan's features. Maybe he sensed that she was no longer the timid worker bee he had often dismissed. The energy in the room shifted subtly. Was this the breakthrough moment she craved? Let us entertain the idea that your insights could collapse the barriers between both cultures, the senior partner interjected, his curiosity piqued. What do you propose as our first steps? An opportunity. Lily felt the ground solid beneath her feet as she presented her ideas, two distinct yet intertwining approaches that melded conventional wisdom with her newly gained insights. The fire within her felt stronger with every word, illuminating her knowledge and capability. She elaborated on methods to initiate respectful dialogue, emphasizing the importance of trust-building exercises. Every point resonated with her colleagues, embedding her contribution into the ongoing discourse. The connection between her words and the room was palpable, weaving a budding alliance against Nathan's critique, but Nathan, sensing the tide shifting, wasn't he done? And what if we fail? He shot back, leaning forward as he confronted her. What if you're wrong in your assessments? Lily met his gaze with unwavering resolve. Then we learn. Failure isn't the end, it's part of the process. I'm ready to face that risk because I believe in the value we can create together. Isn't that worth pursuing? A heavy silence enveloped the room. As if a veil had lifted, she felt lighter, as though she was finally stepping into the clarity of who she had become, but as the senior partner nodded thoughtfully, Nathan's eyes glinted with another challenge, a reminder that this conversation wasn't over. The storm may have settled for now, but new challenges loomed on the horizon. What awaited her was uncertain, but she was ready. Ready to not just contend with Nathan, but to confront the deeper barriers within herself and the organization. This moment had opened the door to a journey that could redefine her career. With this newfound determination coursing through her, Lily wondered what new challenges lay ahead. The meeting had been a step forward, but was it enough to quell the doubts threatening to resurface? The air thickened with possibility as she awaited the senior partner's decision. Would they embrace her perspective, or would Nathan, seemingly always one step ahead, find a way to undermine her further? The tension buzzed in the air, gripping her heart with both excitement and trepidation. The real challenge had just begun. The following days peeled away like tatters from a once whole garment, revealing a new and unpredictable landscape for Lily. She now inhabited a space filled with both potential and pressure, a confounding mix that reminded her how fledgling her confidence still felt despite the meeting's outcome. The senior partner, intrigued by her insights, had launched a pilot project, one that could bridge the deeper cultural chasms between the firm and potential Japanese clients. Assigned to lead the initiative, she was eager to prove that her voice mattered. However, as the details unfolded, fear crept in, draping its shadow over her newfound resolve. What if Nathan ultimately dismissed her ideas? The threads of doubt that she had fought against now began to weave themselves back into her daily thoughts. She spent hours poring over research, diving deep into literature about Japanese business culture and communication styles. Each article seemed alive with whispers of wisdom, urging her to absorb, adapt, and implement. Yet underneath that vibrant determination, a gnawing voice taunted her. What do you really know about leading such a project? On a particularly tense afternoon, just days before they were set to present proposals to an influential Japanese firm, Lily was confronted with another reality check. Nathan had arrived at the office with a list of things she needed to adjust regarding her communication strategy. You need to present actionable frameworks, Lily, he said, his voice clipped with authority. Leave the cultural nuances for later discussions. The condescension simmered just below the surface, but this time it ignited a fire within her. What if the nuances hold the keys to the doors we need to open? She queried, her heartbeat hastening as she gauged Nathan's reaction. By ignoring them, we run the risk of alienating our potential partners. Nathan's silence was deafening. It was a small victory, but Lily could feel the momentum shift, even just slightly. She knew she needed to combine her experiences with concrete data, leveraging both to fortify her strategy. But was her instinct strong enough to back a completely different approach? The moment crystallized for her. A stirring realization crept in. This new sense of urgency, mixed with the rising tension, was pushing her to trust in her instincts, her knowledge, and her vision more than ever. Feeling the strength of her voice ripple through her, she realized that this was about more than presenting ideas. It was about claiming her rightful place in this project. The looming presentation day arrived, and with it a wave of nervous energy. As her team gathered in the conference room, she caught Nathan's furtive glances. Among her colleagues, there was a flicker of skepticism mixed with support. Each face reflected a patchwork of belief and doubt that she knew mirrored her own internal conflict. What are you going to tell them? Andrew asked as they prepared. His eyes sparkled with encouragement, and for a moment, Lily felt bolstered. Yet doubt still whispered frantically. I'm going to articulate our value through their lens, she answered, her voice steady. I'll show them that we respect their uniqueness while delivering unparalleled results. As she stood up to present, the weight of their expectations hung heavily. Lily's gaze shifted from Nathan to her colleagues, seeking refuge in their sincerity. This was her chance not to seek validation, but to forge her path, to cultivate understanding through shared experiences. She could feel the knot of anxiety spiral into something more, a coil of expectancy, the kind she had often yearned for but never knew how to harness. With each word, she wove together her research findings and personal insights into a story of partnership that transcended mere business talk. She engaged her audience, their body language shifting as she spoke about empathy, trust, and the foundational essence of cross-cultural collaboration. As the presentation concluded, the room buzzed with contemplation, heads nodding in agreement. But through the applause, a palpable tension lingered as Nathan's penetrating gaze remained fixed on her. The air crackled with anticipation, the next challenge already emerging. The stakes had risen beyond mere negotiation, they had evolved into a powerful narrative of self-assertion. Every moment from here on would demand her to claim her voice with unwavering conviction. Would she now continue to command respect, or would Nathan re-emerge, seeking to diminish her hard-won confidence? The battle was not yet over, a new horizon loomed ahead, demanding her relentless pursuit of growth. What would it take for her to conquer the doubts that still haunted her every move? Lily stood amidst the post-presentation buzz, her chest swelling with a mix of relief and apprehension. The applause still echoed in her ears, but amidst the praise, Nathan's eyes bore into her, a reminder that the journey was far from complete. The immediate rush of accomplishment began to fade, replaced by a deeper realization. she was on shaky ground, having only begun to lay the foundation for her newfound voice. With the feedback from the meeting swirling in her mind, she returned to her desk, her heart pounding with the weight of upcoming decisions. She had presented her vision, yet something lingered, demanding to be addressed. Nathan's critique had stung, and as the leading architect of this initiative, she knew his approval could mean life or death for her project. The thought of squandering this opportunity fueled her anxiety. Late that night, Lily found herself still at work, the office barren and quiet. The glow of her laptop illuminated her determined expression, as she revisited her presentation. An instinct ran through her: she needed to iterate, to articulate the value not just as a concept, but as a tangible and viable strategy that would delight the potential partners. Why did Nathan's dismissal take shape in her thoughts? Perhaps it was his authority, the years of experience she had yet to accumulate, or something within her deeper than all of it: the fear that maybe he had a point about actionable frameworks, and she had missed the mark. The voice of self-doubt reared its head, but she refused to let it lead her astray again. As she meticulously revamped her proposal, incorporating the critiques she deemed valid while layering it with her insights, clarity emerged. She found a rhythm, a meticulous dance of bold ideas tempered with pragmatism. Each revision felt like peeling back another layer, exposing the core of what she wished to convey. Cultural respect and strategic partnership were not mutually exclusive, they were interwoven threads in the fabric of potential success. The relentless hours spent working began to bear fruit as she invited feedback from her teammates. "This is compelling," Andrew said, his enthusiasm radiating. "You found a way to merge practical and cultural narratives." When her colleagues began to actively engage with her vision, not just as a formality but with investment, confidence coursed back through her veins. But Nathan remained skeptical. Each time he glanced at her in meetings, she could feel the unspoken tension. It was not just about filtering the idea through objective business lines, it was about asserting her authority, something she had grappled with since the beginning. "Why are you still second-guessing yourself?" Lily whispered to herself one evening, staring into the mirror of her office. The question ignited something inside her, a flicker of her true potential. Days turned into relentless nights, but something shifted. The narrative she was shaping was not dictated by Nathan or his vision, it was about what she had learned and how she had grown. Yet growth required risk. With each passing moment, Lily contemplated the next presentation on the horizon. Should she stick to her revised approach or take a leap of faith and challenge Nathan more directly? Striking a balance felt daunting, but a whisper within pushed her. The battle was not just against Nathan's expectations but also the confines of her own uncertainty. The new deadline loomed: a high-stakes presentation to the executive board for advancing the partnership initiative. As the night grew darker, her resolve solidified. She'd have to embrace the unfamiliar and face Nathan head-on, but how? The moment she had long dreaded began to surface on the horizon. Would she confront Nathan decisively and seize the opportunity to transform her career, or would she retreat back into the shadows of vulnerability? As dawn broke, so did a new urgency within her. The time had come to face the doubts that clung like cobwebs to her mind, to challenge the restrictive narratives. Could she truly stand her ground and claim her rightful space? The battle for her professional identity was about to reach a boiling point. Just how far would she go to assert her hard-earned authority? Lily's mind raced as she prepared for the pivotal presentation. Each detail of her strategy weighed heavily on her, yet a strange clarity began to envelop her. She understood that this was not merely about demonstrating cultural respect but also about leveraging her agency within the professional sphere. She had spent countless hours shaping her vision, and if there was any chance to fortify it, she had to affectionately challenge Nathan's skepticism. The boardroom felt like an arena as the day arrived. The room's cold, polished surfaces mirrored her blend of anticipation and dread. As she approached the podium, she sensed the invisible battleground expanding. The board members' expressions were inscrutable, but Nathan's steely gaze pierced through it all. He was waiting, perhaps even hoping, for her to falter. "Good morning, everyone," Lily began, immersed in the warm sounds of her voice. Confidence trembled beneath the surface. She pushed through, reminding herself that this was her moment. She unfolded her new narrative, intertwining data with storytelling, revealing insights that had previously remained shadowed by her self-doubt. Cultural competence isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity in today's interconnected market, she stated, her tone steady but resolute. She emphasized the strategic initiatives she had crafted after evaluating the feedback from her last presentation, illustrating how they could foster solid partnerships without losing cultural sensitivity. Each point she made was accompanied by visuals, data charts, and testimonials, wrapping her ideas in an irrefutable cloak of professionalism. Lily glanced at Nathan, monitoring his reactions, searching for signs of agreement or dissent. A slight furrow in his brow suggested an internal struggle, but she couldn't let that dislodge her focus. Her words became more potent, infused with the passion that had driven her all those long nights. Nevertheless, as she concluded her presentation, the air thickened with tension. The silence that followed felt like a precipice. Finally, Nathan rose to his feet, his expression inscrutable. "While I appreciate your effort, Lily, the strategic approach lacks actionable metrics," he said, his voice calm but firm. Her heartbeat quickened, a momentary flinch overshadowed by a wave of determination. "Nathan," she replied, the words spilling out before she could censor herself. "What if I told you the metrics are embedded within the strategy? Cultural respect transforms into actionable metrics when we consider our partners as allies, not just business entities." The air crackled with her defiance, the room suddenly feeling charged. For the first time, she was asserting her perspective, not simply defending herself but elucidating a vision that mattered. Conversations around the table buzzed to life, as others began to chip in, building upon her ideas rather than shying away. Sitting back down, she felt a swell of relief, yet it was quickly shadowed by the anticipation of Nathan's next response. Would he embrace this shift, or would the walls she had spent so much time laboring over collapse back down to fear? "Lily," Nathan said, steepling his fingers as he regarded her with a newfound intensity. "I'm sensing a shift in your approach. Have you considered the long-term risks involved? Collaborating with different cultural frameworks can drown us in complexity." Just as she prepared to answer, a startling thought flickered. Nathan was not merely an antagonist, he was a reflective adversary, pushing her to dig deeper, to fortify not just her ideas but her very identity as a leader. "I have considered the risks, and I accept them," she shot back, firmness cementing her voice. "But the risk of inaction is far greater. We must evolve or become irrelevant." The murmurs from the other board members intensified. Their unspoken opinions lingered heavily in the air, hinting at a potential shift in the balance of power. Lily stole glances at Nathan, searching for signs of acceptance or further challenge. The tension of the moment crescendoed, she could feel it. Pressing down, poised to snap. As the board began to discuss her proposal, the horizon expanded before her eyes. Was this the breakthrough she had so long sought, or merely the eye of the storm? Just then, Nathan leaned forward, his voice low but resonant. "Lily, perhaps we need to redefine your proposal further. Are you prepared for a battle that transcends mere numbers?" The question hung heavily, one that could dictate the tempo of her career. Would she throw all her weight into this confrontation, challenging not just Nathan but the very system that had made her question herself? The next steps loomed large, her identity as a professional dangling in the balance. Would this be her moment of triumph, or would it doom her aspirations to doubt once again? Only time would reveal whether she had the strength to dismantle the barriers ahead. Lily sat back in her chair long after the meeting ended, the echoes of discussion still reverberating within her. She had taken the plunge, and there was no going back. She had shown her potential, asserted her voice, and claimed her space at the table. Days felt like weeks in the aftermath, but what emerged was an unshakable clarity and resolute determination. The drastic shift in perceptions, the board's newfound respect was both exhilarating and overwhelming. Gone were the days of blending into the background, of feeling like merely a housekeeper. Lily had emerged as an integral team player, proving that her insights had weight. Each time her colleagues approached her for collaboration, a rush of validation washed over her. Her confidence solidified in their eyes, which now sparkled with acknowledgement rather than skepticism. Andrew's request had turned into reality. She found herself in charge of crucial negotiations with Japanese clients. Under the spotlight, she had transformed from the invisible woman into a capable leader, armed with cultural acumen and linguistic dexterity. The stakes were undeniably high, yet the passion she had long fostered fueled her ambition. This was the affirmation she had sought. She was no longer bound by the chains of her past. As she prepared for the meetings, she could hardly focus on the fear that used to govern her decisions. Instead, her meticulous planning transitioned into an exhilarating rhythm, threading her expertise into actionable items. Each detail was met with healthy deliberation, and for the first time, her voice didn't just echo, it resonated. The day of the first major presentation to the Japanese clients arrived, and she felt a mix of jitters and excitement surge through her. Standing before a room filled with seasoned professionals from both her firm and the client side was no small feat. She stepped into the conference room with her head held high, embodying her journey of transformation, a perfect blend of cultural knowledge and strategic foresight. "Thank you all for being here," she began, projecting authority. The air shifted, she could sense the attention zeroing in on her. Each word was infused with conviction, drawing from experiences forged in vulnerability and hardship. "Today, we address not just business, but the foundation of mutual respect and understanding," she proclaimed, packaging her unique insights into a narrative that meshed seamlessly with the goals of both parties. As she navigated through intricate cultural nuances and expectations, she witnessed her colleagues lean in, impressed with the depth of her knowledge. She engaged them in discussions, fostering an atmosphere where ideas flowed organically, regardless of hierarchy. The raw power of connection ignited hope not for her career alone but for the deeper understanding that bridged two worlds. Minutes turned into hours as conversations moved fluidly, ambiguity transformed into clarity, and apprehensions morphed into effective strategies. The approval of the Japanese clients felt imminent, and as the meeting concluded, a round of applause erupted in appreciation. She had not merely survived, she had conquered. As she stepped away from the podium, the lead partner approached her, a newfound respect in his demeanor. "Excellent work, Lily. Your effort has reshaped our understanding of this case," he remarked, unmistakable pride infusing his words. The acknowledgement felt as if layers of past insecurities were being peeled away. This was validation decades in the making. Returning to her desk, the sweet rush of triumph and deep satisfaction enveloped her spirit. She had navigated not only the complexities of business but those deeply ingrained fears of inadequacy. The transformation was tangible. Her trajectory was no longer defined by who she had been but by who she was becoming. Lily felt the sheer weight of accomplishment as she set new goals, visions widening regarding her career. This wasn't the end, it was a beginning. She was ready to lead, to innovate, and to strive for excellence. The chains that once tethered her in silence had shattered, and in their place, a resolute woman stood firm, eyes set firmly on the horizon. Now, it was time for her to share this empowering journey with others. She would help those who still felt invisible to realize their worth and potential, ensuring that no one else had to endure the same struggles she had. This was her legacy. She would draft a future that invited voices to emerge and flourish. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss these exclusive emotional stories that can inspire transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let others experience these triumphs. Comment your reactions and theories about Lily's journey. Every nuance of your insight matters. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Your engagement could be the spark that opens up possibilities for someone else searching for their own voice.